Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Elaine Garby. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Elliott School Alumni Programs, as well as a Master's Alumna of the Elliott School as well. So we're so happy to have Christina here with us. On behalf of the Elliott School of International Affairs and GW's Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, thank you for joining us today as alumna Christina Hawatmeh discusses her new book, The Year Time Stopped, The Global Pandemic in Photos. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Of course, all our attendees are muted and cameras are off. Christina will take questions at the end of the discussion, and we hope to get to as many as time permits. Please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. Closed captioning is also being offered, and you may adjust the settings at the bottom of your screen if you'd like. And finally, this event is being recorded, and the recording link will be shared with attendees after it's been posted on YouTube within the coming week or so. I will just add that I am dealing with bronchitis right now, so I may go off camera and mute myself here and there just to kind of clear my throat here and there. So
recalibrate.
I will be back as soon as I can. So thanks for bearing with me. A few quick notes on alumni programming at GW. There are many ways for alumni to engage in the life of the university. You can be a professional resource to our students and your fellow alumni through our online mentoring platform, Career Connect. And you can volunteer to connect and share career advice with students over virtual coffee, among other things. Max will be entering some of these links in the chat while I'm talking about them. So I hope you can join us in some of those other opportunities. As we begin our third century, we are also strengthening the university's focus on increasing access to a GW education and supporting our best and brightest students, regardless of their background or financial circumstances. We are doing this through our Open Doors, the Centuries Initiative for Scholarships and Fellowships. GW is committed to investing in the next generation of leaders and problem solvers, like our alumni speaker, Christina, and helping these talented students overcome the financial obstacles to their dreams. Building a diverse student body from all walks of life by increasing access to the power of higher education is our responsibility for our students and for our nation's future. And this is just the beginning, just us, so let's open doors. To learn more and to support our GW students, please see the chat box for direct links to these opportunities. Excuse me. It is now my pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Christina Hawatmeh. And Christina is the co-founder of Scopio, a community-based photo storytelling platform and marketplace. As CEO of Scopio, Christina oversees vision and growth. She is the founder of the first female-founded NFT marketplace and the first photography-focused NFT marketplace. Over 25,000 businesses use Scopio to purchase images and hire global artists on various skills like illustration, art, photography, and 3D. Christina was named one of New York Finance's top entrepreneurs to follow in 2021 and has been featured on CNN and Entrepreneur, as has Scopio in Forbes 30 Under 30 annual list. She holds a BA in International Affairs from GW's Elliott School and an MA in International Affairs from Columbia University. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christina for just a couple minutes so she can introduce the book and tell us the good news of what's just happened in the last day. Christina.
Thank you everyone for joining me. This obviously is a very exciting moment. I never thought, well, maybe I did think that I was up for really big things, but I never thought that I would be here talking to Elliott School or all of GW alumni and GW about my book that I believe is a historic book. It came out yesterday and it's published by HarperCollins, which is arguably the second biggest publisher in the world. It is going to be, or it already is from yesterday, in all major retailers across the whole world, Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, Target, your local bookstore. So the fact that it has reached the global scale is something that I really believe is the way I framed my mind from the beginning. Everything I wanted to do, I wanted to impact the globe. And when I had a chance to write this book, which I started my business 9 years ago, and I was collecting photos off of Twitter. And Elaine thought, apparently, she told me that I was like a little crazy, but I started collecting photos off of Twitter at the time during the Arab Spring when there was revolutions in Egypt, and I felt like these images needed to be saved. And I actually felt a little bit like a failure. I felt like I couldn't do anything with them. I ended up finding some engineers when I was at Columbia, and we built a search engine that would pull from hashtags based off photos. We got 60 million photos at the time, but they were useless because I didn't have any of the rights to them. I couldn't basically have the rights to distribute them. So I went on this 10-year quest to build Scopio, which stands for Scope It Out. We see ourselves as this fishing net for the world's content. And I said, I'm going to save history. And it took me that long to be in a position where I was ready to actually capture these, have these images, have all the text around them, what they're about, and then also have the rights to be able to distribute them. So it goes to show, like, sometimes you get ready before you don't know what you're getting ready for. But all of those years, I really felt like I really wish I had saved those images. And every time a new event would happen, I wasn't really yet in that position. And then when 2020 came, I said, like, when I was reading through these stories, seeing how powerful they were, I knew something would come of them. So they wouldn't just get lost in the sea of my million plus images on the website that we already have. So my customer at the time was HarperCollins. I have, again, 25,000 businesses that use Scopio's site, Disney, Microsoft, all the way down to the mom and pop shop. And I told them, like, these photos are so special, these stories, every single one, I get chills when I'm reading them. And so they said, do you want to publish a book together? The president said that to me. And at the time they were buying like photos of like sunsets and like very like casual imagery. So I thought, okay, I'll just give them the pictures that they want for their book. And what was so incredible is that this woman of such great power said, no, I want you to be the author. I want you to write the book. You have been working in this area. You're the expert. And so she gave me full ownership of that, me and my co-founder. And we got to fully curate the book without any controls from anyone else and decide what we wanted to tell the world from that year. So we took it very seriously and built out this narrative that broke out between two sections, alone and together. And it goes through all of the feelings we felt when we felt alone and depressed and isolated, and how we had to transition into virtual, and even how we got married and had all those wonderful moments alone. And then it goes into the second half of the year, which I don't know if you remember, was crazy. And that one is broken into signs of change and has heavy impact on the Black Lives Matter movement, all of the movements around the world during that time, and environmental justice. And we touch very heavily throughout the book on very serious topics. Because of that, we're number one in new releases in photojournalism. I'm not a photojournalist, so to be able to get into that category alone and take that serious, I could have just put a bunch of photos in the book and called it a book. Instead, we decided to teach people about all of these different issues around the world. And I think that's why this is so special. And what it ends up really teaching you is about our humanity. So you can read through these pages, nothing screams more of who are we than this horrible year that we went through. And to know that, like, from 100 different artists and these 200 different photos, like, each one will remind you and teach you something about yourself.
That's great. So I have some questions to kind of dig a little deeper, and you've actually touched on a little bit this already, but I wanted to maybe see if we can pick some more tidbits out. So you talked a little bit about how the book came about, but my question is, how did the inspiration for this book develop? But you've talked a little bit about how HarperCollins reached out to you, this person at the company. Like, what was their vision though for it? Did they want something that was specific to the pandemic, or did that develop over time? How did that come about?
So when we got off the call, I was like, and goes to show, like, you should always take the opportunity when somebody gives it to you. Because I could have gotten off the call and been like, yeah, that would be cute to publish a book. But instead I was like, this lady's gonna give me the opportunity, I'm gonna jump on it. So I asked her, what do you need from me in order to make a firm decision? And she said, send me 3 videos of 30 seconds of concepts that you have. So I sent one of healthcare, which we have the most incredible healthcare images, to the point where some of these photos are winning every international award in photography, and they're going to end up being in museums. So we captured the most powerful photographers that literally sleeping in hospitals, documenting this for a month, like one of our cover artists. And then I did a video of the Black Lives Matter, because it was like November 2020. So we had Black Lives Matter and global injustices around the world. And then the third one was about lifestyle. So we thought they were like really cute, funny, kind of quirky things that were happening in our personal lives. And I wanted to discuss that. But then building out this theme of alone and together, that came later, as we started to organize the images. And it's crazy, like, we get more than 15,000 images uploaded a day, but just picking 200 images took us 2 years to do. So the organization happened within that. And it goes to show like how to build a story and how to build a narrative. And that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That goes right into my next question. I'm really interested, given the size and scope of Scopio, the marketplace over the years. And I mean, I know when you started out, I've been in alumni relations that long, and kind of remember why you were trying to get the word out about your new company, and now it's grown so big. Like, how did you possibly tackle that to narrow down the entries for this book to 200 photos out of the tens and thousands that are uploaded every day and every week?
What really matters is the story. So the images, there are so many good pictures, so many powerful images, but then we looked at a photo and we said, like, does this send chills down your spine, this story? Or is this photographer and this artist so shy that we feel like they're trying to tell us something, but they're too scared or nervous? So we did have to go back to many of them and say, like, and open that vulnerable place for people. So, I mean, I even personally interviewed every single person in the book so they could read for the audiobook their story. Either they're crying or I'm crying. So I think this story, and really how are you going to communicate this message? I'm going to give you an example. I have here this little Hulk Hogan toy. I hope I don't have copyright infringement on this call, but I have this little toy, and I'm going to read you one of the stories in the book, which is this picture of this Hulk Hogan toy in this destroyed car. Okay, so this is page 240, and this artist is called Haytham Dunawi, and this picture is from Beirut, Lebanon. This was taken a day after the August 4th, 2020 port explosion in Beirut. A car destroyed, glass everywhere, building walls on top of it, and it lay a child's Hulk toy. This image struck home. Hulk and superheroes were a big part of my childhood. They were able to achieve everything we dreamed of. But this hero, he lay there face down, beaten and defeated. This is what happened to childhood in Lebanon. This is what happened to strength in Lebanon. No matter how hard we have been fighting, somehow the oppressive government seems to always find a way to bring us to our knees. So looking at the picture, you would think, oh, like that just, I mean, it's not as powerful as maybe here, the president of France hugging somebody. But then you read the story and you realize, if you would just hold something like this and you can really connect with your childhood self. So
just to clarify for everybody, I mean, that is the Hulk and not Hulk Hogan, the wrestler.
I mean, the Hulk, sorry. Not
Hulk. I was like, wait a minute. No, that's great. Yeah. And so I don't have the book in front of me myself yet. And I know from talking to you but looking a little bit online too, that there are photos from all over the world. So it's not just US. And yes. And everybody, they all started by uploading to the platform, and then you chose them from there, right? Or did you have like for lack of a better term, like a contest or some kind of thing that you put out on social media calling for more photos? How did that Can you tell a little bit more about the process in that regard?
Yeah, I like once you start, it comes in every direction. So we took
Okay.
some from our site. We had some, like this cover artist that we found, which is this picture is from Turkey, and it looks like it could be from anywhere. She is an enormously famous photographer, and we knew that this would be the cover of the book because it could be really global. So so my team did that, and I think that probably the harder part was developing the chapters and the themes around the book, and just encapsulating every little thing that happened that year. Because thank God we did it during that year. Because if I did it now, I wouldn't be able to remember. But we were in it, doing it, so that's why it's authentic to that year.
Yeah, and I mean, and some of the stuff was beyond that year too, but it's continues on for some people.
I just want to make
wonderful.
sure the link to the book is also here.
Yes,
I don't know if Max has added that for everybody.
he did, and we will add it again at the end just to make sure.
I got it there.
The just going back a little bit, wanted to ask how Scopio is uniquely positioned to bring this book to fruition. So I don't really know like the marketplace, if you will, the larger, like if there are other companies like yours, but it sounds like, I know starting out that you were pretty unique. And we were talking before a couple of weeks ago too, how, like NFTs weren't even around when you started out, and now that, that's kind of become a thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how your company and, how that, I mean, are there other companies out there? And if not, like, then you really kind of were in this niche to produce this book in this way and kind of be really crowdsourced, right?
Yeah, I was at a photographer event in New York yesterday for NFT NYC, which is probably the biggest event for NFTs every year. And there was a National Geographic photographer, and he said, I really wanted to create a book like this, but it's just my perspective. So the fact that we're able to get everybody's perspectives and had this system in place for basically the same issue that I had 9 years ago, which is that there was an important event. I wanted to save these photos so people could see them later. And I couldn't figure out how to do it because logistically it's very hard. You need the licenses, you need all the metadata of the information. You have to get everybody's consent forever, basically. And then there's like a million different, and payments, there's a million different issues. I mean, even half of these people in the book couldn't even receive PayPal payments. So we actually paid them in crypto because they could get it in Turkey or Cuba or different places that they couldn't have bank accounts. So it's like so much of the world has been gated out of creating important things for logistical reasons. And I think that's why people are attracted to, or at least I am attracted to Web3 and everything that is happening in that ecosystem, because a lot of those barriers are being reduced. So all the tracking is visible, all the payments are visible. People can split money with people very easily, like up to 10 people. So sometimes we look, and right now it's only the copyright owner, only the photographer that's making money. But in the future, and why I switched into NFTs is that you could actually give proceeds back to the person in the photo or a nonprofit or your family member, and that is going to be normalized. And I think that's more realistic than especially if my face is in the cover of that picture. So there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in that space. What I urge everybody to do if they're confused is just think about their own either business use or their own personal use and seeing where it fits in the ease of use for them. So you can start by going to Google. You start searching what is an NFT, what is blockchain, and then 20 hours, 50 hours later, you'll come up with basically you'll be an expert because the people that are on the experts on the other end only have a few hundred hours maximum that they've really dedicated to this, besides maybe a few people. So you're not like too far behind. You just have to put in those hours just to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting. It didn't really, Yeah, it's not something I delve into myself or really have to. And then you think about,
Yeah.
like, I kind of like peripherally know like a lot about a little bit about NFTs, and but just that the fact that you're dealing with so many people around the world just for this book and the photo rights and all that kind of stuff, and how do you pay those people, and
Yeah.
that is very interesting. So that's great that you were able to do that.
Yeah, people might be paying their tuition that way in the
Yeah,
future,
right.
maybe near future even, and they could pool money together, and they can maybe like get through some hurdles that they otherwise wouldn't be able to due to like loan restrictions.
Amazing. Yeah, much more accessible. So you read this entry. I mean, do you have other favorite entries, or is there, favorite kind of section of the book? Or, I mean, I'm sure it's kind of hard because you said you've spoken with everybody. Or if there's particularly poignant entries that you're drawn to. Can you share a few of those with us?
I definitely want to urge you to, on our YouTube at Scopio Images, if Max can find that. We have our YouTube channel, Scopio Images, or on Spotify under the Authentic Photographer. We have everybody's recordings there. So if you purchase the book and you're really particularly drawn to an image, you can go find that episode and you can listen to it. I mean, we have things from like Texas to Moscow to Milan. I really am proud of the Black Lives Matter movement chapter, because we, I think, brought some new information to people. We have really great ones from indigenous rights also. This one's from Quito, Ecuador, and the photographer is really incredible. But I think for me, like, I'm really drawn to more of just like the everyday kind of things that happen. So here is a photo from, I think, from Saudi Arabia, and it's a wedding and they have their gloves on at their wedding. It's very kitschy and cute. So you can see those kind of lighten up the mood throughout the book. This is also how people were dealing with COVID in Nairobi. So you really get to open your mind up, and I think everyone can appreciate that went to GW to see the world. This one is cute, like a creativity unleashed chapter on where kids kind of would just find new ways to entertain themselves. And this photo is light, but there's actually another photo in the end of the book that is where they use the cardboard boxes as caskets at the hospital. So it's really like runs the gamut of light to dark very fast in the book. You're just gonna have to get it.
While you're looking through that, on Amazon they show you a few pages, a few entries or whatever. I noticed that some people wrote, their little caption or what was happening in the photos, and some didn't. I mean, what percentage of people were able to kind of write their own little entry for their photos?
Every single person wrote their own.
Okay.
We did not speak for anybody. Everyone wrote their own section. We wrote the chapter headings and we organized all of the introductions, but we let every single person speak for themselves. And that's what makes the book interesting, because I mean, how are we going to tell you what they went through? They can do that. And that's what took up the most of the time, is going back to these artists who are particularly shy usually, and saying, you know what, I like your story, but like, why does that make you feel like that? Or and so we really had to become journalists and really get into people's like center of their emotion, and on some difficult subjects when people are talking about their parents dying in front of them, or their kids getting sick. So that emotion took a lot out of us, and it was really hard. And I'm like still living in 2020. Everybody's moved on, but like now that it's out, I feel good about the fact that people will see these stories. This one is also from the cover artist of the book. And this photographer, again, spent 1 month in a hospital documenting daily life in a hospital. She had to get special permission. And she said some of the photos, she even had to like put on the legs of the doctors while they were doing the examinations. So she said she became totally invisible in order to capture these historic moments, and also she was saying she got special permission from the municipality in Ankara, Turkey, to photograph in private spaces that no people were allowed in. And that's why it's also important, like from, if you want to talk about from the GW perspective, is that this was a female photographer. She said it's notoriously difficult for women in Turkey to get things like that done. But the relationship that she needed was the municipality to sign off. So building those relationships and getting the permissions, just like we got the permissions in the book, these people, like what's standing between them and a work of art is a permission slip, you know? So I think that's always very important to know. And especially in that case where she was sleeping 1 month in the hospital as a woman in Turkey, which was very dangerous for her.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I just can't imagine. I mean, some of them photos, I'm sure, just kind of candid. You can see like the photos in the US sometimes, but people doing some really tough work out there to try and document what's happening over the last
Even in the US, some of the
Yeah.
photographers were saying like protests are illegal. Having a camera is illegal at protests in some states. So they get arrested and they get fined, and there's nobody there to, you know, to bail them out or pay for that, even though they're just there documenting. There's some really outdated laws that we should really work on when it comes to people and photography in public spaces.
Yeah, that, excuse me. I'm gonna try and pop a cough drop here real quick. I can't wait to get my copy of the book.
I know, I wish you had it with, so we could like go through it together right now.
Were there entries that you wanted to include but couldn't due to space constraints? Do you remember some of those stories?
Yeah, it was so hard to, I like a lot of the lighter stuff. My co-founder is very, like, she's the creative director, and she was very strong with the let's take the most serious stuff. But I thought there was a lot of really cute stuff like this, and I wanted to include more of lightening it up throughout the book. But because we only had 200 images, we decided it's our chance to tell a good story. But if I could do like a full series on it, I would do way more of like more or of the creativity unleashed chapter and more of the at-home imagery. The public spaces were also very interesting because obviously it was the only time where these patterns emerged and the order. And we have probably like 10, maybe 10 photos on patterns, but they're remarkable. And even talking to some of the photographers, they were saying like, basically they got like a private shoot for Times Square, you know, where it's completely empty for them. This is like praying pattern, which is super interesting. And then you have all the fruits, the kind of like fruit and food that was like a tobacco field. So there's the colors and the patterns are just pretty even from that perspective. There's one actually from Chile of this flight team, Chilean Air Force, that had to transport people to get treatment. And I thought things like that, from look how proud they are. These people risk their life to transport people from city to city that were sick. So there was a lot of those that I wish I could have included too.
I'm sure it's absolutely endless and
Endless.
From what you're showing, it just looks great though. We do have one question already. If you could explain more about how you got the photos. I think maybe a little bit delve again into what Scopio is. So just wondering where you got the photos, and then how the permissions to get to use the photos in the book. So if you could just, I know we went through that a little quickly too, but maybe that you could talk a little bit more about Scopio and go ahead.
Yeah, so the website is scop.io. Anyone anywhere can go there and in less than 3 minutes upload their photos. So they upload their photos, and in your upload it gets the permission for the distribution of those images. So we have a license agreement that we've set up there. Then when you're in the account, you can add any stories that you'd like to that image. You can add location. And so we, as I mentioned, we have up to 15,000 images a day that people do that with. And we'll be releasing an app next month And I hope I can get to 1 billion images and be like the next Flickr. But now that people are uploading there, then each one has their own page. If they have special skills, like if they're an illustrator or a 3D artist or a photographer, they add those about who they are. We're the only site that you can search based off of gender, ethnicity, location. So I know those are like controversial subjects, but in our case, companies come to us because they want to hire a Black photographer, they want to hire a woman, but they can't find them. So we made everybody very visible, and so that you can either go as a buyer, you can either go and purchase images as a subscriber. So you subscribe, and some plans are very cheap, $29, and they go above, or you can hire these people. So that's how we had the pool of images ready. The hardest part was making sure that story was complete in their profiles. So let's say they have 100 photos, and then a few of them were really powerful during that time. Those are the ones that needed the stories. So now I have hundreds of thousands of stories along with the images, and I have 1 million books in my head, not just this one, because there's a lot of different themes to break out. And you can go to the website and you can browse around, you can search any subject, and you can see what kind of creativity people are up to. We have more than 190 countries, like 193 countries. Are there even that many countries? There's that many, I think 193 countries of people that have submitted their photos. So that to me,
I think that's almost every country.
That's mind-boggling that like people go to the website and know about it, and it shows me that they don't really have another way to get the word out.
So you mentioned Flickr. I mean, and hopefully this helps the person who's asking the question too, because I was trying to think about it myself. Even when you were starting out, you know, you have Instagram and you have Flickr. I mean, but Instagram is more like it's more personal, and like this is people selling their photos more, right? Or is it a way to share just in general too, like Flickr?
Yeah, it's more of selling, because we need to do the transaction to get it somewhere else. Like right now, if I like your photo on Instagram, I can't do anything with it. But on Scopio, we have the permission to get that into TV, news, articles, to get it into business hands. And that key difference is that there's a license attached to that. So even Instagram is our client. Instagram buys photos from us. They can't even use the photos on their own platform.
Okay, so it's kind of like Getty Images maybe, but like more grassroots level?
Yeah, New York Times calls us Getty Images in real time.
Okay, great. That's helpful. So while we're continuing on, if anyone has questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A function or the chat. You'll be able to chat us here directly. Let's see, we've gone through a lot of the questions.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of the questions I have. The last one I had though really was, you know, what do you hope readers will take away from this compendium? Like, what are you hoping to, you know, like, I mean, I know that you're very enthusiastic about this, and you guys did, you know, put a lot of hard work into this, and it shows. And I was just, you know, you were just talking about like all the other images you have. You could do a follow-up or 2 or 3, right?
Thanks for everyone that's saying that they ordered the book. I super appreciate that. And if you can leave a review when you order it, we're working on getting New York Times bestseller list this week. So those reviews really help us. I would like, so I have a vision that this will be in the Library of Congress and every historical place. We already have it at the GW Alumni bookshelf, and I'm on the Columbia Alumni bookshelf with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Obama. So I'm really excited about that. I want people to think about 2020 from a global lens. And because we were the first ones to do this, and I don't see really anybody coming now either, I want people to remember in that way, because we were really polarized during 2020. It was very like we were blocked out from a lot of what was going on in the world. And in this way, it really frames it for everybody of this was a global issue. This is how people dealt with it around the world. And this is our humanity. So moving it from a photo book to a work of art to a historical work is not the challenge, but that's what I have been working so tirelessly for. You know, it's not just a photo book, it's a historic record. It will be on everyone's bookshelves. And not just that, we pulled the whole world together because we want you to relate to other people, to feel that humanity, to to really care about everybody around the world and not just like the people around us.
That's great. I hope we can help you in that endeavor to get the word out and have it be that kind of historical record. I think that's great. One of our alumni, Will Alexander, asked, how did you sustain your motivation to develop Scopio given the time it took to manifest your vision?
Thanks, Will. That's a really good question. I wonder if he's an entrepreneur also.
And I believe he's our new president of the GW Alumni Association too, if I'm not mistaken.
Thanks so much for ordering it. I kind of mentioned it a little bit, I think, but obviously nobody really knows what the true motivation was. I can tell you, I clawed my way into GW. I couldn't wait to be there. I wanted to make a big impact on the world. So I think my ambition was very big from the get-go. I felt frustrated. I worked in Congress. I worked at the Jordanian embassy. I worked at nonprofits, and I felt like I couldn't really make a difference in the world the way I wanted to. And so then when I got into tech, when I got to see like I can really change people's perspectives, I can make a big impact in the world. That to me felt relieving because I had found that avenue that I could work within and feel like it's some people work 30 years in government and to achieve one thing that they've been trying to do, and I could do this in 2 years. It feels like a long time, but really it's not in the scheme of all the bigger issues in the world. So that gives me a lot of comfort. And then I also really failed hard when I tried the first time, and I was like, I really want to solve this problem, and I kept seeing it not solved, and it didn't come out in the way that I thought. I mean, I have my marketplace, we're doing a lot of good there, and we pay artists in all these different places and make their lives better. But I think just this physical reminder for everybody is a huge achievement. And when I imagined that as soon as I got this offer, I had to jump on it, I had to take it. And because I had worked so hard for years and years before that, not seeing any results, the fact that I could know that there's a result coming in 2 years, that was comforting, because I had failed so many years trying to create things that this was I could just need to spend 2 years on this. And then in addition to running my company and doing everything else, but I know it's going to happen at the end. And I think a lot of people they want to start a project, but they don't know if there's going to be a result. That's the problem. That's really hard to put your dedication into something with no real result guaranteed to you.
Yeah, well, and that just brings up another perfect segue for me, because you've been participating in GW's new venture competition for a few years, correct?
Yes, I've been a judge on some wonderful ideas. One which inspired me, by the way, released yesterday. I released a collection on OpenSea, which is the largest NFT marketplace, and one of the teams in our the competition this year thought of an audio NFT site, which is basically putting up audio clips of people's memories, and then people will buy those and historical events. And so I had all these audio recordings of all the artists, and I thought, let me put them up there. So now I have a collection there, and you can basically own a moment from 2020 from these. So I need to tell that person that inspired me for that. But here, I'm going to share that now.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
So it's with judges, I really make it very clear. I also get to learn from these incredible young people and their ideas. And when you're I think what Will was saying, what motivates you, sometimes you get tired, but then when you can sit and think, oh wow, look at all these other really creative concepts, it wakes you up a little bit, and it shows you that there's more to do. So that's where I find value in that competition. And I think something that's very special that GW does that others don't is actually gives money like real money to these kids so they can keep going. Some of them are adults, but there's a lot of, I just judged the MIT female founders competition at the Harvard Club in New York. Everybody has a patent. These are like doctors and engineers and like genius ideas. And the awards were like, I think in total $50,000. And these people need millions of dollars to get their ideas off the ground. So I was thinking, this is not fair. You have like the most perfect ideas, the best people, and they're not having enough money. So the fact that GW could bring it to the level, I think, $250,000 for these people to start their concepts, like that goes a long way, and it sets the standard for others.
What I love about it too, and I've seen it, expand and grow over the years, is that there's students and young alumni from all of our schools at GW. So it's not just like the business school. It's not just the engineering school that's participating. We have Elliott School students participating all the time too. And one of the more famous ones, Danya Sherman, who created No Nap, which is the napkin you can dip in a drink and know if it's got drugs in it, somebody had put drugs in it. And she's gone on to other competitions and everything. But I just thank you again for participating. I think all of our alumni who participate in that competition, it's just wonderful and shows the breadth of the GW student population and their ideas, and that it doesn't need to be like what you normally think like for entrepreneurship. It can, the ideas can come from anywhere. So
and the next challenge is that the judges need to have more interdisciplinary backgrounds, because I was specifically in a position to judge that audio idea. And then there's some medical ones that I'm not, like, I don't have enough knowledge for, although I can appreciate the innovation. But there should be, because GW has such a heavy medical innovation every year, there's so many, they outweigh the other ideas. There really should be these technical medical experts. So I think from a judge's perspective, and I've been asking my friends, like, whenever you see an alumni that has a specific talent, especially in this competition on the tech side, but a different niche space, GW should have that information, so that when the competition comes, you have the judge there to basically give them their network, their connections, maybe even fund them themselves. So it's not just like, when I leave that room, sometimes I'm like, they don't really need my feedback, because it's so precious. What they need is me to introduce them to somebody. And I think that's where the alumni, when they're coming in to judge, they need to remember, I'm here to help them and give them, and not just like criticize them. Because so many people along my journey just criticized me, put me down, made me feel like I couldn't do it in these competitions. And it's so sensitive when you're giving that feedback. You need to make sure you're not discouraging them from actually pursuing their dream. So that's where the judging needs to be weighed with, here's an introduction, or a tip, or something that can allow them to move forward, instead of just like judging that moment. That's not the point.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to say that you were talking about your motivation, and that, you failed. I think all great entrepreneurs or business people, right, have failed at some point. But that's also what you
fail. That's like human nature. It's right. Like we fail at everything.
Well, that's something that you can give to them too, right? Is helping them to show that, they might not succeed right away, but that's part of the journey. And so I think having you participate in that and sending that message is also wonderful for the students and young alumni. Excuse me again. One of our another alumnus has asked, where did you grow up and how did you find your way to GW and the Elliott School?
I grew up, and there's a wonderful article coming out that was so well done. I think it's probably the best article that I've seen with this book launch. And we've had Entrepreneur Magazine and Voice of America and some really great interviews. I really like the GW one, because it made me realize more about my childhood and why I did go to Elliott. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents are immigrants from Jordan. They are doctors. They are very hardworking. All my life saw them working as hard as they could to develop this life. And as we got older, could see that American dream play out for them. So that also helped me realize that I could do things in my life because they had come with nothing and then built this great life for themselves. And I remember there was September 11th was a very big issue because I grew up in St. Louis around in a very in an environment where people didn't understand what it meant for me to be Arab, especially in my school and my family members, and then my cousins and my community, many of which were we had to park in front of the school. Sometimes our cars would get attacked. People would always say comments to us. So we went from this, and I went to the same high school all my life. So I thought these people know me more than anybody else. I've been with you since I was 2 years old. And then all of a sudden there's so much confusion, so much chaos, and I couldn't control the narrative. And I felt that this is not fair. I can't even show who I am, or these people can't show who they are. And I think that I get to do that a lot in my business today. And I wanted to go to Elliott School because I wanted to go to DC because I felt there's so many people that get misunderstood, especially in America. There's always a targeted group that is somehow isolated and under fire. And I didn't get why that had to be the case. And then unfortunately, when big events like that happen, you become the expert to everybody. So you have to learn a lot about, I didn't know, all of that information about the Iraq war, what's going on. But then I had to start learning it to kind of defend myself. And I really enjoyed speaking and teaching people about things and changing their minds and opening up that lens. And so GW and I actually got waitlisted at GW, and I cried in my bed for 2 weeks. And then my dad was like, "Are you done crying? We're going to go to DC and convince them that they need you." So I put a folder together of all of my awards. I had won a lot of awards at the time, for social work. And I put this stupid folder together. My dad took me to DC, and I had my meeting at the waitlist office. And then I walked out, and my dad said, "Everybody had walked in and out in 2 minutes, and you stayed in for 20 minutes. And that means that they're going to take you and accept you." And they did.
That's wonderful. And your sister also went to GW.
Yeah, my sister also went to the business school, and she went on to do urban planning masters.
Great. Yeah. And is she younger? So you paved the way.
Yes, I was a senior. She was a freshman at the time. And I love that about GW, that it's a lot of families there, and a lot of my friends, and then their siblings I'm friends with. So that's, I think, the most nicest thing about GW is that they have that family tie, and hopefully my kids will go there too one day.
There you go. Well, I don't personally have any other questions, and it's just, if there's anybody online who has, please again put it in the chat or the Q&A. We do have a few minutes left, but was there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Christina?
I think I have 29 people here on the call. So I just want to say, if you have any opportunities for the book or for Scopio, please reach out to me anytime. My email is here. It's obviously a very crucial week for us. We're trying to get New York Times bestseller. I'm still looking for somebody at Wall Street Journal and Washington Post and New York Times to review the book. But if you have anyone of influence, I'm happy to mail them a copy of the book and see if there's anything we can do to really turn this into a history book. That's my email.
Great.
And thanks for listening to my story. It's great.
It's wonderful that I appreciate you taking the time. I know that it is a busy week for you launching the book, and you've got you're in New York this week and doing some other events, and we'll be doing St. Louis next week. And
that's today. If you have any friends or family in New York, today we'll be doing a big exhibit where everyone can listen to the stories and see the imagery from the book.
And I'm assuming the story you're mentioning is the profile we'll be publishing through the alumni. We'll do it through the Elliott School, and then it'll also be on the GW alumni blog, so people can keep an eye out for that. So we'll delve a little bit. We'll touch on some of the things we talked about here, but delve a little deeper on some other points here. Just looking at the chat, make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Thanks so much for everyone's nice words. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. I think we'll end it here, but obviously you can be in touch with Christina. If you have any other questions, Sky just put one in. How did you find your publisher, or was it more that they found you? So you talk a little bit about that again.
85% of people have a book ready in their head, I learned, apparently.
Okay.
So my advice to this question is just start writing your book and your publisher will find you. But mine ended up being my customer on my site. If anybody has a book idea and you're like serious about it, email me. I can send it to them. But there is self-publishing too. And then you have the major ones. I never had an agent. I was lucky where we'd sign the deal in like a week. And she's like, we could do this together. So I had a copyright lawyer, Nancy Wolf, at CDAS, and she helped me with the agreement. But otherwise I didn't get an agent, and I just had them as my client that were purchasing photos at Harper One, which is part of HarperCollins. But there are a number of publishers you could pitch without that agent taking like 20-30% of your sales forever. You can try that, or the self-publishing route on Amazon. But the idea really is to start writing and have everything ready. Like I was basically ready by the time I got the opportunity. And that's why I think I got it.
I just put the Harper One link in the chat because that shows the links to all the major retailers like Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you again, Christina, so much for talking about the Your Time Stopped. I'm really excited to get my copy and delve more deeply.
On the way.
And thank you again for everybody who joined us today. Again, alumni events continue over the summer, and obviously they're a bit more social maybe, both in DC and across the US. And there are more events that are happening in person now. So continue to check the alumni calendar at alumni.gwu.edu/events for more information and to register. And don't forget to save the date for Alumni and Families Weekend, which is going to be September 30th through October 2nd on campus in person. So I guess we're getting back to more kind of quote unquote normal times. So I'm sure we'll still have these virtual events from time to time too, and appreciate again, Christina, joining us today. And we look forward to hearing more about your book and seeing where things go and making that historical record.
Thanks so much. I appreciate your support.
Yep, absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.